What's up, everybody? We're going to be diving into episode 4 of Shogun this week. If you haven't watched the episode yet, don't forget to go forth, watch it, then come back. Hit the pause button. I don't do spoiler free, so you need to make sure you've watched it before we dive in. But we're going to continue onwards with the review, picking up where we left off last week. Very happy with this week's episode. I feel like this one was more of a, coming to grips with the reality of where the characters are at, and especially Blackthorne's role right now, where he's at. So without further ado, you've had your spoiler warning. We're going to be moving forward in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Here we go. The first few episodes were mostly setting up the political maneuvering that is taking place in all the various episodes. We're sort of getting the backdrop in those episodes, the first 3 episodes, and now that we're into the fourth one, we're sort of firmly entrenched in that plot and moving forward. So the big thing is that essentially you've got this new base of operations that Toranaga has brought Blackthorne to, where he's supposed to spend the next 6 months training guys. But he quickly finds that this is just another prison that he has exchanged, just nicer. And in this case, he now finds himself with Lady Mariko, living in his building, and he's also been assigned a consort who's going to be taking care of everything else in his house for him. The new place is, if I'm not mistaken, is a Jiro. That's going to be the new base of operations for Blackthorne to train this gun regiment. As a Hatamoto, he must abide by his oath to Toranaga, but it just means that essentially he's stuck here. He has nothing left to do. He's got to hold his affairs in a Japanese house. He has to accept the consort Fuji, even though he doesn't want to, and he's got to dedicate his time to training the army for Toranaga. He does try to go get to his ship and get his pistols, but Mariko informs him that that's now his property, as are the Dutch sailors. And he also tries to find them, but he can't because they've been moved to Edo, which is where they're going to be. That's where they're going to be building the new church that Toranaga promised the Portuguese. Um, the one weird thing here is Fuji has been assigned as his consort, and he's had a hard time coming to grips with that. But he does, over the course of the episode, come to accept her and even offers her his pistols. There's a great scene where these guys come to take his weapons, and he's like, "No, these are my weapons," and when he offers them to her to safeguard at Lady Mariko's advice, Fuji turns the guns on the other samurai, and they bow to her in deference because she is not a foreigner. It's very interesting. Um, anyway, we do get some more downtime between Mariko and Blackthorne, talking about like the episode's title, which is the concept of the Eightfold Fence, which is a mechanism taught to the young people of Japan that allows them to essentially, it's a coping mechanism. And she says, "Don't be fooled by our politeness, our bows, or our rituals. Beneath it all, we could be a great distance away, safe and alone." And then when she gives this to him, she then gives him his pistols, showing that she went forth and actually got them off of the Erasmus for him, which is really cool. Um, there's a whole subplot here with Yabashuge, who freaks out once he learns that Toranaga has resigned from the Council of Regents, because he realizes that he's either going to have to be staying with Toranaga, or he's going to have to report back to the guys who were trying to corrupt him in the first place. Either way, he's facing potential seppuku, or being stuck on the losing side of a war that he feels. He's very happy about the display of military force they're going to be putting on the shores of Jiro, but he's very upset at the same time as Toranaga decides to depart immediately for Edo instead of spending his time here in the fishing village and accepting all of the sort of oh, the I don't want to say the benefits of royalty, but the benefits of being here as the lord of everything. Yamashige is torn between two places because he's either going to go with Toranaga, who doesn't trust him, or Ishido, where he's probably going to be asked to commit seppuku. Considering that he's considered a betrayer. I don't know. Poor guy. He's stuck in a rock in a hard place. He's also got his nephew Omi, who's very cunning and is trying to plan things behind his father's back. The big thing here is Blackthorne decides to train the gun regiment with cannons, and he starts to prove his worth in that regards. But we do get this. There's a few different things here. One is the fact that Mariko has the Erasmus's logs, and she's begun to inspect them, and she's realized that Blackthorne is a little bit more than he says. It's proof that, that the journals are proof that he's engaged in piracy, and it also shows that his piracy is specifically sanctioned by the Queen of England as an act of war against the Portuguese. And this is something, where she gives him that speech about before you meddle with our politics, just remember we live and we die. We control nothing beyond that. Quick commercial break, everyone, to celebrate and give thanks to all of these amazing people who keep me on the air full time. Really appreciate the support. All you got to do is join as a member. You get access to private videos. You can also do super thanks on any upload or super chats and stickers on any live stream or premiere you see. And beyond that, don't forget we're multi-streaming over on Twitch now, so you can support over there as well. Thanks so much to everybody. Let's get back to the video at hand. Um, Ishido's men show up the next day and inform Yabushige that the council has summoned him back to Osaka, but the problem is if he goes back, he's absolutely going to be asked to commit seppuku, and if he stays, he's going to be labeled a traitor. So he tries to buy himself time by promising the Kamen demonstration, but Toranaga's son kind of takes that away from him and decides to attack them with cannons and kill them without advising his father of anything, which means the war is on. There's also this scene where Mariko finds Blackthorne at the hot springs. They have a sort of intimate moment where they're just conversing, but later that night, and later that night, when they're at the pools, he basically tells her she's a strong woman. And he says, "Here I see such a woman who owes me no explanations." And later that night, she shows up at his in his room, disrobes, and basically they have the hunky funky. And the next morning, though, she tells him in front of Fuji that she's glad he enjoyed the courtesan that Fuji and she hired for him, prompting confusion from him, which I think as well is, there's a moment where it's like, well, why is she pretending unless perhaps she suspects that Fuji maybe understands some Portuguese, and so she's trying to create this front that she hired a, concert to come in when it's clearly, she came to Blackthorne. I think the interesting thing about what we're left with here is that just behind Yabushiki's shoulder, we see Omi smiling as Toranaga's son kills everyone because he really did want to provoke war. There's a quote here from the beginning of the episode where an ally with ambition is no ally, and it's a very interesting place to be. All we know for certain is that this has been an unprovoked act of war, and they're gonna have there's not gonna be anywhere forward moving from this point other than just accept the fact that they're now against all the armies of the other four counselors. So remains to be seen. And she is pursuing him, and I don't know where that's gonna go out, but we'll see where it ends up. Can't wait for next week's episode. I'm very happy with the show so far. This episode felt like we've done with all the political structuring, we've met all the cast of characters, and now we're just getting deeper into the war that's going to establish why there needs to be a shogun in the first place. And we'll see from here. Like, subscribe, hit the bell icon so you never miss an update. I'll see you all next week. Don't forget all the other shows I review and all the other things I do. Check out the playlist, join the Discord. There's a Patreon. Links are down below. I'll see you next time, everybody.